Imagine a young leader trying to free his country from foreign control, only to face a coup attempt. This is the story of Burkina Faso's Ibrahim Traoré and the forces working against him. Welcome to Afro Page. In this video, we'll talk about Ibrahim Traoré, the youngest head of state in Burkina Faso. Traoré came to power through a coup in September 2022 with big plans for his country. He wants to make Burkina Faso independent and free from colonial influence. But Traoré's vision isn't easy to achieve. Western powers, especially France, aren't happy with his anti-colonial stance. They've been involved in African politics for a long time to protect their interests. Now, Traoré's push for independence is causing conflict between his goals and what these Western countries want. This clash sets the stage for some big problems ahead. You might be wondering why these Western powers are so interested in Burkina Faso. Well, it's not just about politics, there's a lot more at stake. Burkina Faso has some hidden treasures that many people don't know about. Let's talk about what makes Burkina Faso so valuable. This country is rich in natural resources. It's got gold, zinc, copper, and manganese. There's also phosphate and limestone. But that's not all. Burkina Faso even has diamonds, bauxite, nickel, and vanadium. Gold is a big deal here. Did you know that Burkina Faso is the fourth largest gold producer in all of Africa? That's pretty impressive for a country that many people can't even find on a map. But it's not just about shiny metals. Burkina Faso has great potential for farming too. About 20% of its land is good for agriculture. The government wants to grow more cotton, maize, sorghum, millet, and sugar cane. They're trying to modernize farming to produce more food. Now, here's where things get interesting. For a long time, European countries, especially France, have been taking advantage of these resources. They put leaders in charge who would do what they wanted. If a leader tried to break free from their control, they'd often face a coup. This is where Ibrahim Traoré comes in. He's different. Traoré wants to use Burkina Faso's resources to help his own country, not fill up foreign bank accounts. You can imagine why this doesn't make France very happy. They've been benefiting from Burkina Faso's wealth for a long time, and Traoré's new policies threaten to cut off that flow of money. So when we talk about the power struggle in Burkina Faso, we're really talking about who gets to control these valuable resources. It's not just about who sits in the president's chair, it's about who gets to decide what happens to all that gold, all those minerals, and all that farmland. Traoré's got some big plans. He's looking to team up with countries like Iran and Russia. This is a big change from always relying on Western countries. It's part of his strategy to make new friends and reduce Western influence. Now, think about what could happen if Burkina Faso gets full control of its resources. The country could see major economic growth. They might not need as much foreign aid. They could become more self-sufficient. This would be a big deal for Burkina Faso, but it would also mean less influence for countries like France. So when you hear about coups and power struggles in Burkina Faso, remember it's not just about politics. It's about gold, diamonds, farmland, and the future of a nation. The stakes are high, and that's why this story is so important. Now that we understand what's at stake in Burkina Faso, let's take a closer look at the forces working against Ibrahim Traoré. You might be surprised to learn who's really pulling the strings behind the scenes. France has a long history of getting involved in African politics, especially in its former colonies. This isn't just about being friendly neighbors. It's about keeping control and protecting French interests. In Burkina Faso, we're seeing this play out in a big way. In September 2023, something big happened. A group of soldiers tried to overthrow Traoré's government, but here's the twist: they failed, and now they're in big trouble. These soldiers, both current and former, were arrested and charged with some serious crimes. We're talking about things like plotting against the military and putting the country's security at risk. But here's where it gets really interesting. The people investigating this failed coup got a tip. They found out that some powerful people in Burkina Faso's military were backing this plot. And guess who many people think was behind it all? That's right, France. You might be wondering why France would do this. Well, it all comes down to what Traoré has been doing since he came to power. He's been working hard to reduce French influence in Burkina Faso. He even kicked out French troops and started making friends with countries like Russia and Iran. You can imagine this didn't make France very happy. Traoré himself has spoken out about this. He's accused France of using money to encourage certain people to cause trouble for his government. In his words, France is pulling the strings behind the scenes. This isn't just about one failed coup. It's part of a bigger picture. France has been losing its grip on many African countries, and it's trying hard to hold on. But Traoré is fighting back. In January 2023, he ordered all French military forces to leave Burkina Faso. This was a big deal and really hurt the relationship between the two countries. Traoré's not stopping there. He's looking to make new friends and reduce how much Burkina Faso relies on France. He's even working on building stronger ties with countries like Iran. This is all part of his plan to make Burkina Faso more independent. So what does all this mean for Burkina Faso? Well, it could lead to some big changes. There might be more political problems as France and other Western countries try to keep their influence, but it could also mean a chance for Burkina Faso to really take control of its own future. Traoré knows this fight isn't over. He's been telling the people of Burkina Faso to stay alert and stand together. He wants everyone to be ready to protect their country from outside forces that want to cause trouble. In the end, this isn't just about Burkina Faso. It's about a bigger change happening across Africa. Many countries are trying to break free from old colonial ties and take control of their own resources and futures. Burkina Faso, under Traoré's leadership, is at the front of this fight. So how is Traoré responding to this pushback from Western powers? His actions might surprise you. Traoré isn't just sitting back and accepting things as they are. He's making big moves to change Burkina Faso's relationship with the rest of the world. One of his boldest actions was ordering French military forces to leave the country in January 2023. This was a huge step towards reducing French influence in Burkina Faso. But Traoré didn't stop there. He's looking to build new friendships with other countries. Russia and Iran are two nations that Burkina Faso is getting closer to. This is a big change from always relying on Western countries like France. At the Russia-Africa Summit in July 2023, Traoré spoke out against African leaders who side with Western countries. He said, "The fight we are waging is not just for Burkina, it's a fight for Africa's freedom." He wants Burkina Faso and other African nations to be truly independent. Traoré is also reaching out to Iran. Burkina Faso's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Olivier Rouamba, met with Iran's president to talk about working together more. This shows that Burkina Faso is serious about finding new partners. These changes are having a big impact on how other countries see Burkina Faso. The nation is now seen as more independent and assertive on the world stage. It's not just following what Western countries say anymore. But not everyone is happy about this. French President Emmanuel Macron has criticized Russia's growing influence in African countries. He called it predatory, especially now that Burkina Faso is working with Russian forces to fight armed groups. Traoré knows that his actions might cause problems. He's told the people of Burkina Faso to be ready to protect their country from outside forces that want to cause trouble. He wants everyone to stand together to keep Burkina Faso independent. These changes are part of Traoré's bigger plan. He wants Burkina Faso to control its own future and its own resources. By making new friends and reducing dependency on Western nations, he hopes to make Burkina Faso stronger and more self-sufficient. This shift in Burkina Faso's foreign policy is a big deal. It's changing how the country interacts with the rest of the world. Traoré is trying to show that Burkina Faso can choose its own path and make its own decisions. But it's not just about Burkina Faso. Other African countries are watching what's happening. Some might follow Traoré's example and try to break away from old colonial ties too. This could lead to big changes across the whole continent. As tensions rose between Traoré and Western powers, something big was brewing in Burkina Faso. On September 8, 2023, a plot against the country's military regime started to unravel. This wasn't just any ordinary political disagreement, it was a full-blown coup attempt. The story of this failed coup is like something out of a spy movie. It all started when investigators got a tip-off in August. They found out that both current and former soldiers were up to no good. These weren't just any soldiers, they had backgrounds in intelligence. They were watching the homes and important places used by top people in the government, including Captain Ibrahim Traoré himself. But what were they trying to do? Their goal was to shake things up and cause trouble for the transition. That's the temporary military rule that's supposed to lead to elections. It seems like they wanted to stop Burkina Faso from becoming more independent. As the investigation went on, 3 people were arrested. An examining magistrate ordered them to be locked up. The charges against them were serious. They were accused of being part of a military plot, not following military orders, being in a criminal group, and putting the country's security at risk. The military prosecutor, Major Alonso, made a statement about these charges. He named the 3 people involved Warrant Officer Wind, Sergeant Brace Ismail Rande, and former Corporal Sadar. Here's something interesting: these same people had been in trouble before. Back in 2015, they were found guilty of being part of another plot against the government. When news of this failed coup got out, people in Burkina Faso had strong reactions. Supporters of Ibrahim Traoré gathered in the capital city, Ouagadougou. They were there to show they were against the coup attempt. During this gathering, Traoré himself spoke to the crowd. He told them he knew who was behind the plot. Traoré didn't just talk to his supporters. He also spoke to religious leaders and civil society groups. He asked all citizens to support him, saying there were forces trying to cause trouble and make people lose hope. He told everyone to be watchful and ready, warning that the path to democracy wouldn't be easy. But Traoré didn't stop there. He pointed fingers at who he thought was really behind all this trouble. In his words, France was the one pulling the strings of the former and on-duty soldiers, forcing them to revolt. He said money was being used to encourage some people to cause problems for the government. In an interview on Burkina Faso's national radio and TV, Traoré made his position clear. He said, the French military stationed in Burkina Faso was not to fight the jihadists, but to ensure that a coup could be carried out if any leader went against French policies. This is why he told French troops to leave Burkina Faso in January 2023. This failed coup and Traoré's response show just how complicated things are in Burkina Faso right now. It's not just about one country, it's part of a bigger struggle for independence and control in Africa. With tensions high and foreign powers watching closely, what's next for Burkina Faso? Ibrahim Traoré knows the fight for true independence is far from over. He's calling on all citizens to stay alert and support the government against outside threats. Traoré warns that achieving sovereignty won't be easy, but it's crucial for Burkina Faso's future. The country still faces big challenges. Western countries, especially France, might try again to destabilize Traoré's government. There could be more coup attempts or economic pressure, but Traoré is working to make Burkina Faso stronger. He's building new alliances with countries like Russia and Iran and trying to take control of the country's valuable resources. Burkina Faso's struggle is part of a bigger story in Africa. Many countries are trying to break free from old colonial ties. If Traoré succeeds, it could inspire other African nations to follow his lead and stand up for their independence too.